Alright, hey everybody. I am back for the second excerpt vlog, and I'm going to be reading from Shadowed Summer by Saundra Mitchell, and I hope you can see that. And I'm just going to be reading from pretty much near the beginning. It's just starting at page 22, and so there isn't really a whole lot. Basically, at this point, Iris has already heard from Elijah, and she told her friend Colette about it, and so they were gonna go back to the cemetery to try and contact Elijah, and so but Colette brought along her new crush, I guess, Ben, and Ben brought his witch board, which, by the way, when Saundra was first telling me about, because I asked her what scene she would be fine with me reading or what suggestions she had, she said, well, I really also like this witchboard scene in there, and for some reason, I don't know why, but I thought when she said witchboard, I thought she meant like it was some sort of like surfboard kind of thing, because that's pretty much what it sounds like, but it's not. It's actually a Ouija board, or a spirit board. So, so there you go. So in case you're confused about it like I am, that's what it is. Because it took me so long to try and figure it out. I was just like, what the hell? So, but anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. You're not supposed to do it by yourself, Ben said, unfolding the board between us. You need at least two to keep from being possessed. Nodding at this wisdom, we watched as Ben shook the pointer out of its red velvet bag. His witchboard was even better than we hoped. Instead of cardboard and plastic like the kind that came from the store, Ben's was made of wood, mahogany, with light pine letters set right into the top. When I touched the pointer, it was warm and buttery, and heavy too, alive and full of witch fire. Secretly, I admired Ben a little more for owning something so fine and rare, but only a little. Where'd you get this? I whispered. It was my Nana's, he said, rubbing the board with a fluffy cloth square. And it was her Nana's. She brought it over when she came from Italy. Generations of Ben's family had passed the board on. Most people had only bothered to bring a family Bible over from Europe. That they had brought this made me twice as impressed. All right, everybody has to promise not to push, Colette said. She put the pointer in the middle of the board, then tapped the edge with her finger to test it. It took barely anything to slide to the spot on the bottom that said audio. Since I recognized C and no on the top, I guessed audio meant goodbye. I'm not going to push, I promised quietly as I put my fingers down. What should we ask first? Colette whispered. Rolling his head back to stare at the sky as if the answer would be written in the clouds, Ben thought about it for a minute. Is anybody listening? The pointer didn't move. Every second lasted a whole afternoon, and I felt old and wound up when I finally said, maybe we should try something else. Nudging me, Colette lifted her fingers and rubbed the sweat from them. You should ask if he's here. Who? Ben smiled, his eyes flicking at me, then back at her. My face went hot. I guess I deserved it, for going out of my way to embarrass Colette at the Red Stripe the day before, but still. If I'd wanted to mention being a little crazy, I would have brought it up myself. Nobody. She saw a ghost right here, Colette nodded toward Claire's crypt. Well, over there, really. He came right up close and said her name. Ben's mouth dropped open. Really? Shrugging, I gritted my teeth. I hadn't had a chance to tell her I must have made it all up, but selfishly, I didn't want to give Ben a reason to take his beautiful witchboard home. Yeah. Then we should try him, Ben said. His eyes were cornflower blue. I'd never noticed that before. The pointer slipped around under my fingers, and I watched the tendons flickering in my wrist. Out of curiosity, I pushed real light. Even though the pointer moved, my muscles hardly told on me. Colette and Ben didn't seem to notice. I guess we could try. Settling in, I took a deep breath. My family had all kinds of haunts. My great-aunt Corinne saw her dead mama in a turned-off television, and Daddy's cousin Paul always dreamed a white dove right before somebody died. I knew from a real haunt and what Daddy had said about ghosts in graveyards rolled around in my head. So I didn't feel bad making one up. We were the living, remembering the dead, after all. Closing my eyes, I whispered in my best magic voice, You out there? It's me, Iris. Sweat trickled down my back. I waited for a minute before pushing. Peeking through my lashes, I tried to look blind as I slowly guided the arrow to C. Colette murmured in amazement, and Ben whispered, "It's working." I slipped into a medium skin, rolling my head around to loosen my neck before picking another question that sounded seance proper. "You're here with us now?" I tugged on the pointer, then slid it right back to C. We should ask something we already know as a test. The sweltering heat carried Colette and Ben's electricity, a little storm of excitement brewing on top of Jules's crypt. Colette smacked her lips. She always did when she was thinking. She said, "Are you a boy or a girl?" Since it was my show and all, I decided my ghost didn't want to answer Colette. The pointer sat still on the C, unmoving until Ben suggested I try asking. "Maybe they only like you?" Trying not to smile, I nodded and repeated the question. It was harder to spell out words with my eyes mostly closed, so my ghost said he was a boz instead of a boy, but that was close enough. Another electric wave flickered through Ben and Colette, and they started whispering questions for me to ask, one on top of the other. I kept my pace slow so I wouldn't get caught, but I let my ghost answer as many questions as he could, as quick as he could. He was 17 when he died. He drowned in Lake Chicot, and it was cold on the other side. The only question I didn't let my ghost answer was his name, because I couldn't think of one outside of people we already knew. It took forever to spell everything out, and even though it was fun yanking Ben's and Colette's chains, I was hot and getting tired from controlling all my tiny sneak pushes. The last thing I spelled out was "over the river," to answer Ben's question about where my ghost used to live. We had so many rivers in Ascension Parish that anybody could say they lived over one. While Colette tried to puzzle out which river, I nudged the pointer toward audio, saying goodbye so we could put the witchboard away. It pained me to think about it being folded up and put back in its box. It was so pretty to look at that I'd have kept it out on the coffee table for people to admire. "I wish we knew his name," Colette said. The pointer veered before I got it to audio, and my mouth went dry. Stealing looks at Ben's wrists, I could tell he wasn't pushing it, and my body went numb when I realized Colette wasn't either. Their hands lay still as a pond, but I could feel the pull of the pointer swirled around the board, as the pointer swirled around the board. Colette called the letters out, but I knew what it was before she finished. A tight band knotted around my heart, squeezing it painfully as I mouthed the name with no voice at all. Elijah. Cold, just like yesterday's, came over me, icy seeds taking root and growing beneath my skin. Considering how hot it was, it should have felt good, but it ached instead. That was the name I would have picked. His was the only incident we had. Maybe that fine board could read my mind. Maybe I never needed to push. The pointer slipped back and forth across the fine, polished wood, almost too fast to read, then skidded to a stop on audio after finishing one whole sentence. All three of us stared in silence at the message. It seemed too simple, too plain to give us the chill it did. "Where you at, Iris?" And that's it. So, I hope you enjoyed these two vlogs, and keep an eye out for other interviews and guest blogs from Jillian and Saundra later this week, as well as my reviews of their books. So, I'll see you guys later. Bye.